Hi, this is Steph with Belladonna Dyes, and today we're going to make a wigwag, and this is a failure video. Start by using the sleeve inside the other sleeve technique, and what that means is you're bringing the back of the shirt and the front of the shirt together for symmetry. I do have a video for this in the description box down below. It's just a quick little video, and for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to speed right through it. Now to make our pattern, you want to start by making a half circle. This is a lid off, I think, the container that holds my rubber bands. And then I'm using the ruler on this, is it a protractor? Anyways, I'm going 4 inches out from there, and I'm going to use a kite string and my washable marker and just create another line. Now you don't have to do that second line, but it just helps me visually know that I'm on track and I'm making all of my pleats nice and straight. So for this project, I'm going to secure it with rubber bands. You could use string and tie it up if you want to, that's fine. It's just a matter of preference. I wouldn't recommend the sinew though, because sinew creates the white lines, and for the wigwag, I feel like you really do want to have full saturation. With the wigwag and your pleats, they do have a tendency to get sort of tall towards the back of the shirt, and that's okay. For this pattern, you don't necessarily want to introduce new pleats. Now, with some other types of ties like incline ice dyes, it's fine. When your fabric starts to get really thick, start adding in new pleats. Not with the wigwag. So if I was to take a side shot of this after it's all folded, they're going to be, I don't know, let's say a ½ inch at the center where I started, and then there may be an inch at the end when we're done tying it up. And that's okay. So you see here, I've got 2 separate sections. The part that I've already got rubber banded up is the bottom of the shirt. And then the part that I'm working on right now is the neck of the shirt and the sleeve. Now, you don't have to make 2 separate sections. You could just stick them all in one giant rubber band. I think I was thinking at the time that I didn't have rubber bands large enough to go around it all. This is before I got my new rubber bands. So just do whatever works for you. I'm going to end up rubber banding it together, and it is going to end up being one giant section anyways. So just work on your pleats, get down here to the tip, work on those pleats, and then for this shirt, I set it off to dry. Big mistake. So before I set it off to dry, I marked out my zigzag wigwag pattern. And the reason why I did that using my washable marker is because I had a whole stack of shirts that were sitting off drying, and I forget what I'm doing. So I mark out my dye plan before I set it aside. That way when I come back to it, I know what I'm making. Okay, to say this shirt is dry is an understatement. This shirt is petrified. It is a fossil. It is so bone dry. So I'm using some soda ash that I just took this squirt bottle and I dunked it in my soaking bucket and filled it up. And I'm giving it a spritz. That's going to help me break the surface tension so that the dye will go through the fabric. Otherwise, it just wants to roll off. I'm not a fan of dry dyeing. So now it's time to add our dye. And I really don't have much to say about this. You just put it on. And you really do hope to get good saturation. That's the goal. So I'm just going to let you watch and you can see how I do the pattern. And it's pretty self-explanatory there. I will say this about dye colors. I think you want to pick something that has a little more contrast. I wanted to make a pink and purple shirt with black accents, but the colors they're too similar. There isn't enough contrast, and it does sort of make it a little bit difficult to see where my dye is going. I can see it because I'm really close to it. It's not really picking it up on the camera, but the blue violet and the lilac almost look identical at this point. So I let the shirt sit for about 15 minutes and I came back to it. And there isn't a lot of saturation showing through on the other side except for that one big black spot. So I'll tell you, honestly, at this point, I am feeling apprehensive about my saturation because I feel like I put a lot on that top side. So, these wigwags, they stress me out. So I let the shirt sit for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm coming back now and I'm checking the saturation, and it's horrible. You open it up and look at all that white in there. So I hit it with another generous layer of dye, and the dye is actually just spreading on the surface. It really isn't going down into the folds. And frankly, I'm sick of this shirt by now. So I'm gonna do the spray and pray and let it batch for 24 hours and then come back and do the rinse out. So I actually let this shirt sit for 48 hours because I was really concerned about that saturation, and I was hoping that the longer it sat, the deeper the dye would sink in. It didn't happen. So let's talk about rinsing though. Start by using cold water, gradually increase your water up to hot, and rinse until the water runs clear. From here, I take it to the washing machine. I do a hot water cycle. I do a second hot water cycle using Synthrapol, and then I do a third hot water cycle using Milsoft. I'm going to put it in the dryer, and we're going to come back and see our results. Well, here it is, guys, after it's been washed and dried, and it's pretty obvious why I'm calling this a fail. Now, it's not a 100% fail because the wigwag pattern is there, so the fold is nice. So a lot of this tutorial is very valuable. Well, actually, a lot of it is valuable. We learned that saturation is extremely important. So is color choice. The blue violet and the lilac are too similar. Same with the dragon fruit and the hot pink. I don't even see any hot pink. Where did it go? And I put a lot on there. So obviously I'm disappointed by this shirt because of the saturation, but it's not a hard shirt to make. So I highly recommend you make the wigwag. Just really make sure you have the proper saturation before you set it off to batch. Well, this is tie-dye, guys, and they all can't be winners. And I just wanted to share with you that I'm not perfect. A lot of my shirts turn out crappy, and I'm sure you've got some stories just like this one. So go ahead and leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and click the bell for future notifications. And remember, have fun tie-dyeing.